Welcome to Oh Brother, a podcast of three brothers trying to figure it all out, with your hosts, Brandon, Collin, and Aaron. On this week's show, what is band? Recording in progress. Okay.
Ahoy!
Ahoy.
Hello.
Now you all are all so loud. Oh no. Oh,
You're welcome.
it's fine. No,
That's like a
you're
you
really loud.
problem.
Okay.
We're just trying to vibe.
I'm just
over here.
always really loud. That's what my kids tell me all the time. Like, why are you so
Well-
loud? Like, because I have to be louder than you. Boom.
Exactly.
I win.
Why
Stop
are you
it.
shouting at us?
Somebody has to be. Okay, I did
It's
the
gonna be me.
did the very technical solution of turning it off and back on again. So here we
Oh,
go.
yes.
I was gonna say, like, did you unturn it and plug it back in? I feel like that's what.
The tried and true methodology.
Well, I realized I had so I had a remote recording lead recently, and I had to take my setup with me to a new location, and I
The
guess it
Yeah,
it
the
did
basement.
not-
Yes. No.
Yeah, no, it was someone else's house. It did not make the transition well. So
Apparently.
I need to get a much better mobile recording setup.
You know, these things are, it's fine. Everything's
good.
fine. It's
Not
okay.
good. That's all I'm
It's
gonna
fine. It's fine. I just want to know if y'all are ready for 311. That's all I really want to know today.
say.
Boom. Got him.
we're not-
Happy March 11th, everybody.
Happy March
311 day.
going
I
down.
had that realization this afternoon, and so I've been listening to 311 all day. And Susan's like, "What is this?" And I was like, "It's the most 90s thing in the world. You would hate it. It's fine. Don't worry about it."
It
I was
is.
like,
I'm lost.
It's Aaron, I will say we have had this discussion on this show. I might have before.
it's true. It's great.
I will send you in our text channel. I'm not going to send you the exact episode, but I will send you the two, the only two 311 songs that anybody actually knows. Amber and Down.
That's no. People know lots of other ones.
No,
People
they
know
don't.
"Come Original." That's a
okay,
good
well,
one,
they know cover rental. Okay, fine.
right?
Okay.
People also know the name. I can't remember the.
No.
Yeah, Down is the other one that
Down,
everyone knows.
yeah.
Well,
See,
when it was March 6th, no one shouted 3-6 Mafia, but here we are.
Oh, that's true. Flowing. People know Flowing too. They don't know what's called Flowing, but whenever you play it, they're like, "Oh yeah, I know this song." So there you go.
well, you have had a productive day then. Sounds like.
Yeah, definitely playing video games, making sure my online classes are going
Oh, yes.
for all the. We totally should have been in school today. Shh, everything's fine. Don't worry about it.
Okay, so it's not just me. So,
There's no snow on the road. It's okay. It's okay.
no, it was weird. So, did you guys get any snow? How much snow?
Yes.
Yeah, like
Okay, you got snow.
an inch of snow, maybe.
We got so it. I will say this morning from about 5 o'clock up until about like 8 o'clock, it was snowing. Like a good significant amount of snow. But then like the moment 9 o'clock hit, it's like stopped snowing.
Yeah. It was like
and-
really cold.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So-
And like the highways were pretty atrocious this morning. Shelby had to go to work, which I didn't have to. But
Nice.
she said like there was like 5 wrecks like on the way just to her work, and she only has to travel about like 25 minutes.
Eek.
And so put that into perspective of how far I have to drive. Would have been
Forever.
absolutely horrible. So and then like yeah, by noon everything was pretty much melting, but it was still cold, but like cloudy, but like the road was like clear. And I was like, I didn't know what was going on.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. I see how like maybe they could be like, oh yeah, getting kids on the bus would be bad news, but
That was my thought because I would have 100% had to drive that bus, and those back roads. The last time it snowed were still snowy. Like 2 weeks later.
yeah.
Mm,
That's how bad some of those dirt roads were, and I'm like, ooh, yeah, bus
Eek.
those roads hard pass.
Yeah. I also feel like part of our decision is we have these like AMI day things now, right? That we have 6 that we get to use as like virtual days that count as real
Yeah.
life school days. And so we still have 3 left. And so I think you're just like, yeah, use one, it's fine, who cares? I think that's what happened.
Yeah,
Which like part of me is like, okay, fine, whatever. But also part of me is like, I'm still behind now. Cause like
yeah.
I'm not allowed to teach new things. I mean, obviously that makes, that would be weird. Like on these days that we're off, like I can't like teach things. So I'm still behind.
Mhm.
So like now I got to deal with having everybody turn all their junk in again, which is
always fun.
yeah. Cause 6th graders and turning things in is like not a thing that happens. So like, I don't know.
Why would it be?
Yeah. So like, on the one hand, like I don't care when we're in school. Like, oh no, I got to stay home all day and play Elden Ring. Oh well, so sad. But like, but like, it's just kind of annoying because now I'm behind, and like now I have to do a bunch of junk to get made up and everything. So bleh.
I will say the last 2 or 3 times I've wanted to have a test, it snowed or we've had to cancel because we haven't had electricity or the Wi-Fi and electricity went out. So the past 2 or 3 times I've wanted to like, all right, guys, we're gonna have a test this day. So like, oh, due to inclement weather, we're closing.
Just kidding.
So all of our kids, my kids are like, so are we done taking tests for the year? I'm like, it apparently. So
Yeah.
No.
I'm a little bitter about it.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, we were supposed to present today. We have some pretty excellent presentations trying to happen in science today, but no.
not so much.
Severe weather presentations. Ironically, some of them were snowstorms. So it's fine.
Call this first-hand learning experience.
Yeah, it's really just first-hand knowledge, right? You just look out the
Look at
window.
that.
Okay, there's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for attending.
So
Pretty
that
much.
could work, but yeah, we were supposed to present today. So now it's one of those things like, okay, well, I can't present Monday because maybe I could present Monday,
Maybe.
but like because our Mondays we have that late start thing, so our Mondays are like shorter time periods. So I think there's enough time, probably.
Oh.
But like our class periods are shorter on Mondays because we don't start till 9.
Right.
Because we have like every Monday like is like PD meetings, right? So
I got
where we talk about vertically aligning curriculum and all kinds of other. Actually, we don't talk about that. They keep messing up and like making us talk about other junk. It's like, no, I need to talk about this. Stop it.
This is actually kind of important.
Guys, I need to talk to the 5th graders about science. Okay, I have to do that.
Just let me do it.
They're like, no, we have to do this today. Like,
Sorry, you actually want to get work done.
Yeah, I know. It's terrible.
Annoying. One of those guys.
So like that's where I'm at now. I'm stuck because like my afternoon class is fine. Whatever. I'm finishing the second half of a video. Oh no, I can do that any day. But like, can I have enough? Is there enough time to do presentations Monday?
Ugh.
But also now they haven't seen their presentation in 3 days. So I don't want to present Monday. I would rather just kind of start the little next section of notes, right? And then take a break and then do presentations and then just go back to the notes, right?
Sure.
Like, flip back over. That's probably what I'm going to do because we got to start talking about Temperature and light. Dun, dun, dun. Which means it's part. Oh, got another video coming up then. Okay, sorry. Planning things in my head. All right.
Back on
So, yeah,
track.
you see, snow days, these AMI days are like, oh, yeah, we don't actually miss a day. Like, we totally miss a day. Now I'm all confuzzled, right? I don't know what to do.
Yeah. We don't
My
miss a
timeline
day.
is messed up.
Yeah, we don't miss a day in as much as we actually still miss a day. Exactly, right? So-
Yeah. And now I have to chase all this work down. Although I looked at it a little while ago, and a bunch of it's done, so like that's fine.
Oh well, look at
Like
that.
the first time that we did it, right? Like the last time we had the 3 days in a row, and that was the first time ever we had these virtual days where we had to use the thing.
Mhm.
Like the next day back was an absolute disaster.
No.
Like trying to get stuff in, like the kids didn't know what to do with it. They're all like messed up. Like the math teacher, she just took the whole day to just like get it collected and make all the kids that didn't do it or couldn't figure it out like
Oh whoa.
they just did it in class, like, and just like so it was really like a wasted day for them
Wow.
because some of the kids, right, this was the first time ever they'd been held responsible for things on a day off, so like
Right.
they were kind of like
What are you doing
No.
right now? Right.
Yeah, so some of them were like, well, what if I don't? And they found out, oh, okay, well, then I just have to sit here and do it like in the middle of class, right?
Mhm.
And again, some of the other kids that have that like that mindset of like, I don't get it, I'm just gonna not do it,
Sure.
right? And especially with like we talked about other things, but like they did that with my science one. Like all the science one was like, read a thing, do some answers. Was it about independent and dependent variables? Yes. Is that a tricky thing? Yes. Did I say repeatedly, I literally don't care if you get it right or not. I want you to put what your best answer is. Yes. Yes. And did they do it? No. Now, a lot of them did do it right, but like several of them like, well, I didn't know what to do. I was like, you just put, there's a whole thing. I put a thing right here. Look, there's a thing. Did you read this direction page? The one where I defined what those things mean and gave you examples of them, and then gave you just a few practice questions about choosing them from a experiment. No, you didn't, did you?
So sorry.
Grr. Oh well. It'll be fine.
Will it?
I mean, yeah. That's, I don't care. And parent-teacher conferences are on Monday. So if it wasn't fine, guess what? I get to talk to them and say,
Yeah.
hey, let me tell you about how not fine it is.
Yeah. Huh.
So, yeah. It's been my week.
Yeah.
Dealing with that.
We got I can't beat that. We got 8 inches of snow.
Oh, Susan is so mad right now. Like, she's
It was pretty insane. We went from basically roads. So seriously, yesterday at I don't know, 5:00, things were totally fine. Like no issues on the roads. And then over there, like after about like 30 minutes, it was like, oh, things are a little iffy by 7:00. No. At 6:00, things were totally fine because I still needed to drive around. 6:00, things totally fine. By 7:00, things not fine. I was behind
so unfine.
It was very opposite of fine. I was behind a Mustang at a stoplight, and he could not go. He could not go at all. Like there was literally no going forward. The coefficient of friction was very and it was approaching zero, as asymptotically as approaching zero, and they was just like, well, and there's like within 30 minutes people were spun out all over the roads. It was just deteriorating. It was felt like a legitimate blizzard coming in, and then we woke up to 8 inches of snow this morning, and then it was the lightest of snow. It was
yeah, that's true.
It was weird about how
Sweet
quickly.
powder, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's bra. No bros.
Shred.
Yeah. And it just completely disappeared. And then all the roads were perfectly fine. So much so that Lillian School had canceled today, as everyone else did. But then by this afternoon, they were like, well, the mother-son dance is still on for tonight because the roads are okay. Which I thought was pretty funny. It was like, oh, right.
That is kind of funny, actually. Like, well, it's fine. Whatever.
They did. They were like, the roads are clear. The parking lot has no snow in it. You may still come to the dance tonight.
Oh, no.
Nice.
Yeah, I was curious about that because the road temperatures are so high, but because it's been warm, so
yeah.
Oh well. Again, I don't care. I played video games all day long. Definitely, so it's fine.
Right. Oh, it worked out.
I've had two very contrasting video game experiences lately.
Oh.
Yes, so I played before this one. Here's Video Game Review Corner. There you go. I was playing, I just was like, oh, I'm going to play this game. I heard it was kind of okay. I played the game called Lost Judgment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is it's apparently, I didn't know it's a sequel to something else. Oh, well. I'm not a person that really cares about that. It didn't affect enough of the thing to matter, right? But it's apparently a spin-off of the Yakuza series, of which I have played 0 games. So now I'm like, oh man, this game was fantastic. But it's very story-y, right? Lots of talking. It's like a mystery, right? It's you're like a detective, right? Which not enough detective games. I'm going to say that right now. But anyway, without going into too much detail here, it's you're a detective and you're trying to solve this really big, convoluted, crazy mystery story, and so it's super story heavy, right?
Uh-huh.
And there's all these fun arcadey things, whatever. So I beat that, and now I'm playing Elden Ring, which is the exact opposite. You're there's a story, kind of somewhere. If I read this item description and that item description and that one, but the combat's really fun. So it's gorgeous, but these very contrasting styles here, which is weird because one of them is a RPG game, right? So it's there should be a story here somewhere, but as far as I know, it's just I need to find these pieces of a thing and then do something. I don't really know.
Yeah, we'll go
wander around
there.
and not die. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's very contrasting styles. I find it very interesting.
Yeah, kind of ping-ponging back and forth.
Yeah, super dialogue heavy, super cutscene-y, super really crazy story to yep, go that way kind of. Maybe it's fine. Don't worry about
it. Or not.
Yeah, that's all I've been doing. I did actually go play music with people for real, live, in person. It was really weird. I did not understand. I was well, how does this work? What
is band?
Right? What is band? How does work? What are you guys doing? What is other people? It's very strange. That was a good time. It was a very very interesting. It was fun to actually do that again. It's oh wow.
Yeah.
Look, people and loud noises. Hooray.
This was your critics gave you two thumbs up on listening to you.
Yeah, I was kind of mad at him for doing that, right?
No, it was good. Good. And this actually is a question that I wanted to approach you with, and I think maybe a point of general discussion, unless Aaron wants to throw something else in here. Why do you play music?
Oh dear. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't really know the answer. It's just sort of fun, right? Like that's really kind of the only answer that I have. I don't have like a deep like, oh man, I just express my. No, it's just fun. Like I just like it.
No. Well, no, I was because I was thinking about it. I was like, well, I know like we all were in band, like we all had this music connection, and like, but you have continued to play music like a lot. I know you will say, "Oh, not so much," whatever. But like
that's
much,
true, but
like much more
Sounds
more
like
than
Brandon, yeah.
much more than,
yeah. I would say that. You're right. That's
see, it's like anyway. Of like, like you've kept at it, and you've continued to do it. And so I was just kind of curious, like what and so you say it being fun. It's a way to do some new stuff and to like step back and enjoy, because it is enjoyable to you, basically.
Yeah, I think that's the big reason. It's just very enjoyable. It's kind of like, part of it's like the challenge of like trying to figure things out and like learning new things, right? Just kind of that like continual learning process I find enjoyable, right? Like, kind of continuing to get better, like learning new things, learning new bits and pieces of like music theory, because my music theory is like really bad, and like like, oh, these are other kinds of styles, or this is like different chord shapes or whatever, right? Like all those like little pieces to like make things sound more interesting is just it's fun. So like I just find it's just fun to do that, right? And it gets frustrating sometimes when you're not like progressing very much or like stuck or whatever. But like, I just think it's fun, kind of like I don't take it like really seriously. You know what I mean? Like, I've never been a person that's like, oh my gosh, I have to like practice and I have to like improve and I have to get to this level. I'm just like, nah, I'm just having fun. Like, I just really want to make this sound. Like, I like this sound. I get I do have like a thing with sounds though, right? Like I get like there are certain sounds I just really like, and they're kind of almost addicting to hear.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like oh, I just really like this certain sound or this certain like tone or whatever it is like that I get stuck on. Like I just really like it, and then I kind of feed on that too to some extent. Like I like those interesting sounds, and I like to try to think about like other sounds that would make things like sound better, because especially when you think about like a band context, you have to sound kind of in a certain way, otherwise you can't be heard in like a traditional guitar band context, right? If you are because we play with right, there's a guitar player and there's another guitar player, a bass player, a keyboard player, right? So like if you just all play the same thing, you just sound like the same, you know what I mean? And that's boring. So like
yeah.
You get lost. It just sort of sounds like mush,
Sure.
So I try to think about sound in a way that like kind of almost like, this is gonna sound really cliche and weird, but like painting kind of, like what stands out here, how do you blend this together there to make it sound good together, but then how do you stand out in this part so that it sounds interesting? Because if you really like listen to songs even like on the radio, the reason that they're on the radio is because they are produced like immaculately and they sound really good. and there are these like little things that are happening that you don't like consciously pay attention to the first time you hear them. You know, you're just like, this song is really catchy and I don't know why. But if you like really kind of concentrate on it and listen to the details, there's these like little melodic things that happen, or like these really strange sounds that are kind of in the background, you know, that are bolstering everything and making it sound bigger than it actually is. So that kind of like audio way of thinking about it, I just find it really fascinating. And I think it's the fact that I like certain sounds. I get stuck on that and I want to make them. Right? I think that's the other other than it's being fun, there's this like, so there's like it's a really fun part. I like the funness. But then I also like making interesting sounds. Like as weird and generic as that kind of seems, like I find that really enjoyable just because I just like certain sounds. I don't know why that is. It seems kind of weird when I say it out loud like this, but
I think I totally agree. So I will say that there is a phenomenon, and I don't know if this has happened to like you, Aaron, where like you listen to a sound, music, song, and as Brandon was saying, like you listen to the first time and you're like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. And then I do go back and listen to some a lot, and I will say for me, I'd like to get Aaron's thoughts on this. What stands out to me the vast majority of time once I start listening to something of a song that I really like is it has a good bass line, like a good bass that's in the background that like if you just are taking a cursory listen to it, it doesn't stand out to you. But as soon as you start intentionally listening for different aspects of it, it's like, oh no, that's why I like this song. So I don't know, Aaron, if you've had that same experience too.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Unless that band is 311 and then that bass is like all up in bam, right in the front. Sorry, Aaron, go ahead.
I think I kind of take it out as kind of like a two-part thing with music. So on one end, I really like more like vocal music when there's like no instrumental, like choir based music. Maybe piano, but like for some reason there's nothing beats like an all like male choir, just because you get a wide range of like bass, tenor, like everything in between. And for some reason I really love it when choirs like that create kind of like an overtone where like it's just something that's just like, that's really nice and relaxing. Thank you. I needed that. With more instrumental music, for me, it's kind of like, what's the best way to describe it? Yeah, the same kind of thing with those overtones. Like I love listening to DCI, things when they do the warm up. Hearing something about just like hearing it is just like nice. That was like really nice.
I would say that marching snare drum sound that is on the list of one of my favorite sounds ever. That like just that nice crack. Oh my god!
One of my I'm going to completely forget his name. The drummer from the Foo Fighters, Dave
Grohl.
Dave Grohl. So he talks about a thing where it's like listening to a drummer. They have their own, like, all the drummers are same or all the drummers are different, and like you can listen to certain like certain drummers play the same song, but they make it their own, and how unique and diverse it is. But like there's some songs that you can just like, yo, that's okay. I can get behind that and I can feel that. And so like listening to music in those kind of two aspects are kind of there for me. I can't really fully explain it because something I never really thought about before. But there's something of like when you're just listening to it and you're like, hey, that's like really clean. Thank you for being awesome.
Yeah, and what I think is interesting about that is hearing, Brandon, you're going, I have that, but then there's this extra step of going, now I want to make that, or I want to do that. and I want to try my hand at that. So is it the I want to see, is it like other than the personal gratifying to it, is there an aspect of that challenge of making something that you like and trying to figure out exactly all the pieces that are put together? Because I imagine it's kind of like America's Test Kitchen, of they're like, this is how we make the perfect recipe, and it's like part of it is they want to nail that taste or nail that texture of the food in a different way, or trying to make that recipe on the back end.
But yeah, definitely. I think because like when you're thinking about playing music, there is like there's this problem that you have, right? Like you have, and it's kind of the same with every instrument, right? Like drums, I know do this too. Like there's like this sound that is in your head, right? And then you've got to figure out how to make it. And it can be like absolutely maddening, because sometimes you need like a certain thing, or like a certain effect pedal, or like a certain type of drum, right? Or a certain drum head, or right? Like, because there's all these like infinite variables that make the tone what it is. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like you can mix, back to the art example, like if you're mixing your own paint, there's literally an infinite scale in between like red and blue of that purple color that you want. Right? It's actually infinite, right? And so it's kind of like that, where if you have like a drum tone that you just like really want to sound like, and you just like really get like fixated on that tone, like trying to make yours sound in a similar way is like really hard, because there's all these like little things, and part of it is technique, and part of it is equipment, and part of it is all this stuff. So there's that aspect that's really annoying, but like but that's where you kind of like, this thing happens where you go, okay, I want to sound like this, and then you kind of take all the things that you have and you try to make it, and then you make like a new sound, and you go, okay, I like this sound now. You know what I mean? Like you kind of say, like you start somewhere, and then you use the tools you have, and then you kind of end up maybe not exactly where you want to go, but you're close, or you kind of discover something new. You know what I mean? Like, oh, that's nice.
Well, yeah, and I think, because I've heard stories of people who have gone like, oh, I want to try and sound like the Beatles did on this album or whatever, and it's like, well, unless you're recording in Abbey Road,
yeah. That's a whole like, that's a whole other thing, right? That's a whole other. That's where some weirdness can happen, right? Especially with like guitar or like drum, like snobby people, like, oh, the only way to play. Well, I've talked about this before, right? Like their only thing that's acceptable is like this one type of thing. Like, right? No, that's because then you get stuck into like, well, I don't necessarily want to sound like that person. I want to sound like me, but like I want to maybe use some of the tools that they used, right? But like I want to sound different.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where that's why it was nice to play with other people again, because you kind of go, aha, I have these ideas for sounding like this, and then they sound like fine in your house by yourself, right? But then when you mix them with other people's sounds and their proverbial paints, if you will, like it's kind of a like, is this standing out? Am I getting lost here? How does this fit in with what other people are doing? Like that kind of like challenge is just kind of fun to do, just kind of, it's interesting, right? Like to try to mess around with that stuff and say, oh, this is a good idea. I'm going to try this. Let's try this thing. Well, let's do this now. What about this?
And it's kind of a different drive too, of someone who does the, like, we kind of started off the discussion talking about the integrating into a group of musicians and sounds. Like that's a different aspect of making music, as opposed to someone who's in more like, has more solo tendencies or wants to go that route. Like that is,
Yeah.
I think that's a little bit more too. And I think that also brings in a lot more of when you're doing it in a group. It's okay. How do I make myself sound good in this setting? But also, there's this that collaboration effort too of making something totally different than
like making the group sound good, right?
Yeah.
Not just myself, but like how does this make the group sound better, right? That's what that's the part that's interesting too, and it's kind of like that thing, and that's it's part of it is just you have to listen really good, and that's a skill that's like very practiced. Like you can't just do that, you know what I mean? Like you have to be good at listening. That's the most important thing, really, is you can't. I've played with too many people who don't listen, and it would kill you. Like it's just
yeah, well, and it's more than just are you in tune, right? It's like are you matching the style or where the song's going or
like, and it's everything. It's rhythm, stylistically, dynamics, right? That's a big thing, right? Because you just play like one volume the whole time. That's also kind of boring, right? You don't want to do
just
that.
Just loud all time.
I mean, yeah, but like,
but also maybe not. It's
you just play loud. You play slightly less loud and then more loud.
Exactly. See? Oh, look at that range.
Yeah, I'm aware. I am guilty in my youth of not obeying the laws of dynamics, right? As a trumpet player, you don't want to do that. You want to be the loudest person, clearly. That's how it works. You do.
You do.
Like you do.
Yeah. No, I was just, it struck me, just, watching you play, watching you in the group, continuing that creative process I was like, oh, I wonder what he'll say, because especially to continue to do that, right? Like years later and moving forward, and to still find things that interest you about it and things that are challenging to you.
Yeah. I thought it was, that's kind of just fun. I was just trying to contribute a little bit. That's why I was mad that he videotaped that, because I was like, hey, I wrote this song. And he's like, sweet, we're going to videotape it. I was like, we've practiced for 5 minutes. I think this is a bad idea. I don't think. Like,
I don't know. You had two big thumbs up from the reviewers. So
that mad is the wrong word. I was like, dude, come on, really? Right? What are you doing?
Could I have a little bit of a break here?
Yeah, we just practiced this like one time. You're like, yeah, let's record it. Like, wait, all right, hold on,
roll tape, right?
Man.
Oh. Well, good. And so that's that group is one that Bliss plays periodically, or
very periodically.
Very periodically. Okay. I understood.
Yeah, it's been it's been a little hard recently. What with global pandemics and whatnot,
Please.
But yeah, it was and then like there's all the scheduling is the hard part, right? Because like one of the dudes is like a choir director, right? And so he's like in the middle of like directing a musical right now, so like he wasn't there clearly. So like it's okay.
That's tough.
And so right. So like it's the whole thing. So.
Aaron, I need you to explain something to me, in like 5 minutes or less. Why Russia want parts of Ukraine?
Oh no.
Is there like a quick, like 5 minutes, like real whoop boom in and out kind of thing?
Basically, so the best way that I do describe it is what was Putin's job during the Soviet Union?
Uh, classified.
Yes, unknown.
Was he in the KGB?
Yeah, he was KGB.
He was in the KGB. So he oh man, I even did a whole class about this. To be honest with you. So Putin was in the KGB after the Soviet Union fell. He worked his way up and became like the deputy mayor of like St. Petersburg or something like that. Who was in charge of Russia at this time?
When?
Come on, guys.
What? I need a year.
This is the like 1991, 1992.
Oh, right after that was Gorbachev, right?
Gorbachev, right?
Nope.
And then like, well, no, Gorbachev is the one who no. What's his name? It wasn't Gorby, was it? It was.
Was found
Did you
drunk
call him
outside of
Gorby?
Washington.
Yeah,
Yeltsin. So-
Yeltsin. Yes, Boris.
so-
Okay,
Yeah. So
Gorbachev was right before Yeltsin.
Voted.
Yeah. So the good old dancing bear, as he was called in Russian, was the president, but he was like super unpopular, and like Vladimir or good old Putin was like, oh hey, like if only we had some strong figure. Oh, what's that? You want to vote for me? Okay. And so this is where the Chechen war came into place, because he's like, oh, look what the Chechens did. They bombed our cities, which it was totally him destroying smaller city or the buildings in cities. And so rinse, wash, repeat. Putin has been doing this kind of like, oh man, we're in trouble. Look at we need someone to strong to defend us. Oh, what's that? That's me. Okay, it's an insist. He also kind of wants to bring, in my eyes, the height of the Soviet Union back to its former self. He did the same thing with Georgia a few years ago during.
Yeah, I'm still doing the same. Yeah,
Beijing
just
Olympics.
more quietly.
Yeah, and then only in 2014 he did the same thing with Crimea. Was like, oh, this used to be part of the Soviet Union. Oh, look at all these Russians in Crimea, which is mostly filled with Ukrainian Tatars. And so it just in hindsight, just kind of wanting to rebuild the glory days of the Soviet Union.
Well, yeah, he's using the nationalism angle as a cover, but like you're right, there is this thing where all countries want to be at their border maximum, right? And in his eyes, the border maximum of Russia was the Soviet Union, right?
Also,
even though it wasn't all Russia, but it was though, right? You know what I mean?
Ukraine also wants to be part of NATO. Which,
yeah, and they want to be part of the EU real bad.
Yeah, NATO was designed pretty much against the Soviet Union. He's like, oh, why would you want to leave and join them? And plus, he just kind of wants a little puppet, border state between him and the rest of the world.
That's the other thing, right? One of the real reasons is that Russia has no natural border defense.
Yeah.
Right? There is no mountain range. There's no river. There's no ocean. There's nothing stopping any aggressor from just like straight up marching to Moscow.
Yeah.
Right? We've seen it in the past. The literal only thing stopping them is January. So like so the fact that it would be another like, oh, I can put more miles between me and my enemies, right? In this case, like financial enemies like Germany, right? If I can put distance between them and myself.
Sure.
Right. Plus Ukraine also like giant farmland area. Right.
As apparently, as we're finding out, it's a bit important to many a thing in the world.
Yeah.
Well,
like
Stalin also, during one of his 5-year plan things, like took all of the farmers from Ukraine and stuffed them in the factories. And then when you do that, you kind of forget about the farms, and that's where we get to hold it more. Where over like 7 million Ukrainians died of starvation.
Yeah, that didn't work out well.
The breadbasket of Europe.
Yeah. And I think he also wants to increase his like legitimacy of the Crimea thing, right? Because people sort of forgot, even though people sort of forgot about that. But the reason he wants that is Russia has no port at all.
Right.
They have like Vladivostok. Oh man, that's handy on the on the exact other side of Russia from everything. Oh man.
So do you think he really miscalculated the time it would take? Because I was reading something where they were saying like apparently he thought this was going to be over in like 3 days, kind of like the Crimea incursion was, where he just kind of went in and everything was like, okay, well, never mind. Did he really make that big of a mistake with this one?
Well, I think so, because like Aaron said, he's been doing this in other places for like years, right? Like the Georgia thing, like the Caucasus states, right? Kind of like Georgia, Azerbaijan area. The other one that's over there. What's the other one? Georgia, Azerbaijan. There's 3. Anyway, yeah, he's done that there, like just sort of like casually moving the border. Like what?
Like, oh, this is for your protection, and just so on and so forth. Yeah, so he's done that, but I think I don't want to say he's like insane or crazy. Like he is very, what's the word? Where you not manipulative, where you wait for the right he's opportunistic. Nailed it.
Yeah,
sure.
He is very opportunistic because what happened last time, especially with Georgia, was like the winter or whatever Olympics was going on, and then he's like, "Oh, well, you mean you guys didn't say anything while I was doing this? I mean, I didn't think it was that big of a deal."
Yeah,
but I think with this time is that there's a lot more like larger world response, and like sanctions and a lot of these companies have been like pulled out of Russia, and that has hurt them. But there was also with the other ones, there was more support kind of like within Russia. But like if you like there's a lot of people that like ask the Russians like, oh, how do you feel about this? And we're like, why are we doing this? And that's where you see a lot of those protests that occurred in Russia, like outside of Moscow and like all these other places. Like people like, oh, hey, this is actually like more of a backlash than what we were anticipating.
Yeah. Well, I think he kind of buckled down really hard after about like 2011, right? Like when all that Arab Spring stuff was going on, you know?
Yeah, because he
all
didn't lose power. Yeah,
exactly. All these countries were like, all the populations were like really rebelling against like ultra controlling leaders. He was like, everything's fine, don't worry. Like, and he like hammered hard on a bunch of stuff because he was like, nope, not happy. But there was protests in Russia then, and there was like lots of weird arrests and like all this stuff, and like, and so I think
it's also like gone. It's always been kind of like a dip. Like every time there's been like a dip in popularity, he's always found like another target to go after. With like after Yeltsin, it was Chechens, and then after that there was like a few party things, and then after that it was like going after gay people and like how they they're the people, they're the things that bringing Russia down. Actually kicking out millions of Jews and going after Muslims and kind of like all these like targeting stuff. And so it's I think people are starting to should have been starting to catch on because he's literally been doing the same thing since like the 90s.
Yeah, it's just a different group of people, right? It's just like you're right, and that's why there's a lot of a Muslim population in the kind of that Caucasus area, right? Mm-hmm. There's like a weird there over there, so that's another reason area where he's been like, oh yeah, they're not Russian, right? This other kind of thing, right? Seeing the people as other, and so therefore dangerous, and therefore doing this.
Yeah,
but like, so there has been. You're right. This time people are like, this time it just does seem like really out of the blue. Like what? You what? Why did you do that? Like,
yeah.
I'm just gonna invade Ukraine now. You're like what?
Yeah.
I also think that a lot of it comes from because Angela Merkel retired.
Yeah, there's a new German guy.
German
she literally kept him in check for like years because I was remember reading a thing. It's like the only person Putin like not fears, but like I won't do anything. Don't worry. Was because of Angela Merkel because she literally like scared him so much. Now I don't know if like that's kind of true, but there's also kind of that timing factor of like, well, since she retired and everyone's focused on other things, then he's like, blam. So,
well, yeah, you said the word opportunistic, right?
Yeah, very opportunistic.
Because like the one, like Germany is the power in the EU right now, right?
Yeah.
Financially, everything. Like they, and I think it, he's like, oh, okay, well, maybe they won't do these things, and they're still like, even still, Germany doesn't have like a big military, because historical reasons, and but like, and I don't think but he knows that if they decide to, he's in trouble, right? Because if like, and so that's the other part. Like, if Germany really kicks in and like says, oh yeah, we'll help fund some of these armies in like NATO, then they have problem. Then there is somebody who can stand up to them, like literally right on their door. You know what I mean? And so that, that phantom aggressor, that he sees as the like, oh, they're dangerous. Like, they're not really, but if you keep doing that, they will be. Like, plus he's just really concerned about, I think you're right. I think kind of at this point in his life, he's very concerned about like legacy, right?
Yeah.
Like, what is the legacy of him in Russia? And like, I think you're kind of right. Like, strong man, take Russian lands, But
that's been a very like a pattern with him, because he's always been seen as that strong. The pictures of him like always, with his shirt off, and like him just like doing like very heroic things, like, oh look, you went swimming in the Black Sea and found this ancient pot, and and that's kind of a very like dictator thing to do, like Yuli Brahmanov in like Turkmenistan, and like kind of like all those people. It's like, oh, look how strong I am, so people don't think that I'm weak. And so the fact that like he does that, but he's also been kind of like seen as like humble and tame. Like, oh, he won't ever misuse his powers, because every year when it's time for re-election, he like always steps down, but it's always like the same person. Like, he'll be president, and then like he'll step down to be prime minister, and then like the prime minister will become president, and then like back and forth. And so he's like, oh, look at me, I'm doing such a good job, stepping down for my country. Oh, what's that? You want me to be president again? Okay. And then just cycle. So
yeah, I mean, recycle for show, right? Like,
yeah. Oh no.
But yeah, you're right. He is sort of I think you brought up a good point there. He's sort of like bolstered by some of his kind of southeastern neighbors, right? It's like Kazakhstan is just like, that dude's just crazy.
Yeah.
Right. Like, if you look at a picture of the capital of Kazakhstan, tell me a crazy dictator did not build that city.
Right.
Just look at it.
Yeah.
You go, what on earth? Like, this country has nothing in it, and this is what the capital looks like? Mm-hmm. Okay. And kind of those states kind of have like a very weird kind of thing. And so he's sort of like still kind of like hugging them, giving the old Soviet hug, right? Oh, yeah, comrade, what's up? Kind of bolstering them so that he has no problems over there, just letting him do whatever, saying, oh yeah. That's this buffer between him and like anything from that direction, right? So he has cold and distance. That's the only buffer he's got. So on the other side, though, he's freaking out about European Union and all this stuff, and so
So if he just hypothetically he takes Ukraine, isn't he then just literally now actually touching the EU with the border? So So is he actually trying to take the property, or is he trying to convince Ukraine to remain neutral and not join, and kind of like bully them, strong arm them into a more neutral position?
Well, I think it's not necessarily that he's bullying Ukraine into doing that, because Ukraine wants to be part of the EU, right?
Yeah.
They want to do this, but by doing this, he's looking at France and Germany saying, don't let them in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what he's doing. That's the other part of it. Is he's using them as like, he's like beating up Ukraine, but he's staring at Germany while he's doing it. Saying, this is, don't do it. Right? Don't let them in the EU. They're under I got them. Right? They're mine. But Ukraine's like, no, don't. We don't want to be here. No. So it's pretty weird, right? Like, this is very like, I feel like this is a very like 1700s thing to do, you know,
Or,
like
imperialistic.
Yeah, right. This is not like a 21st century move. You know what I mean? Like, that's the other. This brings me to the other part, and Aaron will be able to confirm this statement. But like, when you sort of like look at the history of Russians doing things, you just look at basically every decision they've ever made and gone, why did you do that? Right? Like,
Russia has always been very like backwards, because there's always been kind of that, hey, let's be more modern, and then they do something modern, and it's like, that's not the kind of modern we're talking about. I mean, good try.
Yeah, it's like it just seems
a few years of stagnation, and then like, hey, Peter, Peter the Great, and it's like, oh, let's all shave our beards, and not wear coats, and let's remove serfdom. And you're like, I mean,
yeah, but like,
not wrong, but like, what? So there's just always been like this weird, like, hey, look, we're trying, rest of the world, and they're like, no.
It just seems like bizarro world, right? Like, Russian history is just full of like, that you went with that, huh?
Right. That's
okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, this whole like flexing on Ukraine to like intimidate Germany, this is a very like colonial thing, right? Like imperial, like Tsarist Russia situation, right? It's very, that part is very like Tsarist, where it's like, oh yes, I'm gonna do this, or it's just it feels very like kind of, I don't know, end of 1700s, early 1800s, like Napoleonic almost, right? I feel like Napoleon would pull something dumb like that, right? Like, or did do that, I guess, right? With like, Austria, like, hey, look what I did to Austria. Or like, look what I did to Italy. Yeah, Germany. You see that? Yeah. Stop it, Prussia. Like,
yeah.
So it just seems like really out of touch with, but if that's, he's going for, like you said, strong man, like really bizarre czarist flexes seem to be in line with that way of thinking.
That kind of makes sense. Well, no, it makes perfect sense why on like day 3 or whatever, he put all of his nuclear forces on like highest alert. And to me, that was kind of like, it seemed to come out really strong. But basically, I guess what he was saying was, this is not for anybody else, right? Like, the world doesn't need to be involved in this. This is just between me and the EU right now. And like, trying to deter a more offensive approach to it so that he could get them to that point of submission, basically, right? So that it didn't get over too fast.
Yeah, and that's kind of the ultimate like problem with nuclear weapons, is like, if you just use them like that, like, oh gee, come on, man, like, you just like put all your like cards on the table literally, and just say, yep, this is what I'm willing to do, stay away from me.
You
know what I mean? Like, it's kind of the ultimate deterrent. That's why North Korea so desperately wants them, right? Because they don't, and they have unconfirmed, but
What?
they don't they don't have that ultimate bargaining chip. So if somebody's just like, yeah, we're gonna just take you over now, just shut up and go away.
Yeah,
They have nothing to stop them, right? Saddam Hussein did not have them, and so North Korea looks at that and goes, right, it's bad. Look what happened to that guy. Look what happened to Gaddafi. Right. Look what happened to these guys.
Yeah. So,
but also I was reading that some of the U.S. generals are responding to that, and they're like, "Dude, they're always on high alert. I don't know what he's talking about."
Sure.
He's
yeah, nothing new. It's just no, more high alert. More.
Yeah, he's I was reading. Yes, one of them was like, "That's just how they are."
Sure.
Ours are like that too with them.
Yeah.
He's not saying anything that's surprising.
So how does he back out of this? How does he get out of this? Because I'm looking at this, I'm thinking I don't know, save face or whatever, but what's the off ramp for him to get this de-escalated? Which I know, if you read through The Art of War, one of the things they talk about is the need to give your opponent an off ramp so that they can take it right without getting that defeat. What's it in this case?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because I'm this is way past what I think most people were thinking. Because whenever he first went, I know people were like, "Oh, he's going to go into the Donbass in the whatever region," and then he literally kept going, and everyone was like,
"Yeah, he's going for Kiev, right?"
And everyone was like, "Wait, what a minute, what?" And now he's in it. It's kind of deep, and things are bad, real bad for them, for their economy and all sorts of stuff. So I think about this. I'm like, I don't know what it even looks like to get that pulled back.
Yeah, I don't either. I think he's going to be fighting tooth and nail for all those Russian malware dollars, the ransomware dollars are going to be funding.
Oh, sure.
But yeah, I don't really know, right? I don't know the way out of this because some of these sanctions are extreme.
Oh,
right. We're seizing property and kicking people out of owning the Chelsea football team, right? This is that's what's happening. So
it's insane.
I mean, it's good, right? McDonald's closed down every restaurant in Russia.
Yeah.
Which there's
they just got those because that was the big thing when the Soviet Union.
I was going to say there's
opening up Western powers. The first thing they got was McDonald's.
There's some deep irony here because
people were so happy.
That one of the first Western businesses in there was McDonald's, right?
Well, and the fact that they're literally turning Visa was no cards, just any cards don't work. So it's not just the oligarchs and Putin, but literally families going to go to the grocery stores were oh, I don't have access to my money anymore. Oh dang, that is serious.
And so I don't know how far he goes with that. I don't know how far he says who cares, and he turns into a weird big colder North Korea, right? We don't need your internet, right? Yeah. We don't need your whatever. But I'm not trying to be pro-capitalist or anything here, but you kind of do, right? Because the world economy at this point depends on big things like that. And having as dumb as this sounds, having a McDonald's in Russia is Aaron's right. It was a huge thing for the Russian economy after 91. you know? And if you've spent 30 some years depending on that instead of having you have your own restaurants, obviously, but like nothing like that. And then you just like rip that out of there. Eek. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and so they produce a lot of natural resources, but nobody's going to buy them. I mean, China will buy them because they don't care, but like,
Yeah.
they're in the same boat too, right? China's all like, oh, we hate capitalists, except for we need to buy the thing, right? Like,
Yeah, in as much as we love capitalists, we hate them. But it also, it is creating some weird, strange bedfellows because Putin has come out strongly against communism, right? And like how he doesn't think it's good or appropriate, and yet here we are. But again, words, mean one thing, actions mean another. So
yeah, like it's one of those like, hey, if you leave me alone, I'll leave you alone things, right? That's kind of what their agreement seems to be at the moment, right? Like, just like, so that's a whole other bizarre situation, but like, it's very odd, and like, to say the least, and I think, I don't know what his exit strategy here is, other than I don't know if he even has one. I think it's like take Ukraine, right? I don't.
It happens.
Like, yeah. I don't know, but I feel like I don't know. Like, I feel like you just can't let somebody do that. You know what I mean? Like, surely. Surely, like, as much as you don't want to make this conflict more, like, you cannot just like watch a country like take over another one and be like, yeah, it's fine, don't worry about it.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, this is not the 1800s Africa. We should not be doing that, right? We're not just gonna be like, oh yeah, you can have that, it's fine. Like, it's very perplexing, and like, some of the responses have been like slow, with some of the stuff, but like, like, you can't just sit idly by and like watch that happen. You know what I mean? And be like, oh yeah, we'll just let them take it over. It's fine. It seems really odd that you would do that. So, like, you gotta do something about it, because that's not okay. Just be like, oh yeah, there's bombing people. It's fine. Who cares? Like, no, don't do that. It's an idiot. You can't do that. So,
well, yeah, I think that's that response, how quickly it came, I think definitely shows the what the world thinks. I mean, not all of the world, but a good chunk of the world basically said what they believe, how a country should or should not act, and they're gonna try and do what they can, as opposed to without getting involved militarily.
Yeah, I know, and it's hard because like they're still the big scary boy on the block, right?
Yeah.
Right. Like, it's different with them than it is like other people, right? Because if like another country was doing that, you'd be like, yeah, no, blam.
Mm-hmm.
Where NATO would just be like, no, stop it. You know what I mean? Like, if it was a smaller country or a different country or countries in other parts of the world, like, you just go, no, don't do it. But like, they're like more dangerous because they do have a history of like really bad decision making, right? Like, you go. So you can't just be like, nah, we're just going to drop some troops in Ukraine and be good, right? Because even though you could do that, that's not going to help anything. So like, it almost is like like the extreme sanctions almost, it's slower, but it's almost like it makes more sense because like you're literally telling somebody like, listen, you can't afford to do this. Like literally, you can't afford to do this. Like, what are you doing? Like, and who knows what reserves they have, but they're not exactly like just a giant booming economy anyway.
Well, no, well, so that's interesting that you say that because I guess this is again just a general ignorance of countries and operations and stuff. But right, like I had a vision of them as a superpower, as a global superpower, and as these big baddies. And then they were like, no, like their economy is kind of like that of Florida or New York. Like they're kind of at that level as far as like GDP.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy moly. That's what?
Yeah.
That is
the GDP is not great. Like,
well, it's because of all those sanctions that we've had for the past ever. Because we've always had some like form of sanction on them in some way, shape, or form. Because it's always like, all right, we're gonna do this. Russia, you good? Like, oh yeah, of course. And then they do something, and we're like, now you got to put another sanction on you. And so it's always just been like a thing where we've had to keep sanctions. So yeah, their economy has been very tanky for the past several years.
Yeah, but I mean, even before that, like they never really got off the ground after the Soviet Union collapsed, right? Like, there was not a good transition from Soviet planned economy to free market economy.
Yeah.
Because basically one just disappeared one day and then there was literally nothing.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of Russian people that live in like very rural Russia, not like the Muscovites or like the St. Petersburg denizens, right? People that live like in the middle of nowhere Russia, you will often see them talking about like, yeah, the Soviet Union was great.
Mm-hmm.
Because they had a job in a house.
Yeah.
Boom. 100%. Everybody had a job in a house. Every single person. And now they have like a wagon.
Yeah.
Because the Soviets did such a bad job of being like their quote unquote planned economy. It's very odd, right? Where they chose to put things was like weird. Like I don't know what like all the resources are over here, so we'll build our factory 150 miles away from that.
Mm-hmm.
Like what?
Perfect.
What? Why would you? What?
What else do you need to know?
Yeah, so all these villages and stuff that had jobs because they were part of this like big convoluted thing. Like when the big extra convoluted thing went away, there's no reason to have a job there because it literally didn't make sense. So now they're just like, now I'm stuck here in this place that was being funded, but now it is not. It was making like gloves or something, because they were like, here's a village, here's people, what can we make here? Gloves, boom. Let's do it. It literally made no sense for there to be a glove factory there. But because they were planning everything, again, planning, air quotes, you just threw it there. And then whenever they realized, we can't actually make money doing this, we have to move somewhere else. Then everybody's like, oh, what now?
Yeah.
And so the transition from that to normal, quote, normal economy after 91 was never real great anyway. Yeah. So they didn't exactly hit the ground running in their transition either. So the fact that yeah, they do all this stuff, and then you're like, "What's your GDP? Oh, 0? What?" So the like very surprising countries have bigger GDPs than Russia, right? Like,
Yeah.
What? I gotta find the list again, but like, it's very, very odd.
Well, I'm glad I saved my question for you. I appreciate the insight. So, well, don't quite. This is weird.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
for sure. So, I would just say I've always found Ukraine to be a fascinating place, and it's very saddening. All the stuff that's going on here right now. I really don't like it. It's very upsetting, just because
Sure.
I don't know. There's just something really interesting about it, and it's really cool. All the stuff I like to learn about it is Ukraine, and it's got its own very interesting history that's very diverse and separate from that of Russia. So, hopefully, this nonsense can find some sort of conclusion. I don't know what it could be, but because it's bad times.
That's an understatement. For sure. Well, we will need to bring together maybe good news or actually get our challenge off the ground for next time.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway. Fine. And do that then. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Well, you both enjoy your evenings. Hope you stay warm, and
We'll do
whatever it is we do next time.
All righty.
Okay.
I like it.
Love you guys.
Love you too. And love you, Ukraine.
Love
Shout
you,
out.
Ukraine. Yes, absolutely. Okay. Bye.
Bye.